Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Arnaud Debia, and I'm Creative Development Director at Ipsos Creative Excellence, and I will be your host today. And today for this episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by Tanja Grubner, Global Innovation Brand and Communication Director at SCT, and Margaux Revol, former strategy partner at AMV BBDO. And you are both joining from Germany, right, Tanja?
I'm calling in from Munich, yeah.
Munich, so I guess that's somewhere around here. And Margaux, you're calling from London, is that right? So very happy that we have you both today to tell us about, fantastic award-winning campaign for body form Libresse, which I think has changed so much on how brands and advertising talk about periods. What we want to talk about today together is to speak more about your creative journey, the lessons that you could share for others who want to follow your path and do great creative work that can have an impact on people and society. How did you two meet?
I don't think we remember the very first time, but I think we both remember when we really got together as a team, because we faced so many hurdles to get Blood Normal out into the world that we basically spent, our days and our nights, together with the rest of the team, trying to figure out how to get it out, how to convince people that it was the right thing to do. And I think it really sealed the partnership.
So that has been a real collective effort for you, right? So you said that collaboration was the deciding factor to make your great campaigns happen.
And to have one North Star or one common goal, one mission, which for us was to take all the stereotypes out of a category, to remove the taboos that are holding women back, that became that rallying cry for the team working in SCT, but also for all our agency partners who've been working with us, from the creative agency, but also media. And I think that really helped us because we had one clear enemy, which was everybody who didn't want us to get the work out into the world. So that made us as a team even stronger.
Or did you start working together on Blood Normal and decided somehow to say, oh, we need to do something more and we need to change the way brands speak about periods?
I think a while back when I started working on the feminine care category and when I had a look at the brand positioning, I remember the positioning looked like a pink handbag. Now brand positioning, it's be your best self every day, which was, fundamentally wrong, because who needs now a period care brand to put even more pressure on women? Then I was a maternity cover on on the position. I was like, okay, I have 1 year left to change that for good. So in the first month, I've asked the agency come together in our key markets, and we decided to really understand what women go through. And then we changed our brand positioning. And back then, together with AMV and people from Colombia and Mexico and Europe and Southeast Asia, we decided, well, the world is really hostile. So just selling products and expecting consumers to be confident wouldn't be enough. We actually need to break those stereotypes and taboos. So that purpose was created back then, and AMV a few years earlier, when they won the creative pitch for SCT, came up with the idea about living fearless. And back then we realized as a brand, we need to act also fearless. We cannot just tell consumers to live fearless. And when we unpacked that, we decided that we want to show the truth around periods, around women's bodies. Blood Normal was one of the first chapters, and definitely the one that was transformative for the category, right, Margaux?
Yeah, I think the intention behind Blood Normal was to create a campaign that would generate sort of brand affinity, And the starting point for us was, well, it's just a little bit of blood, so why do we never show it, mention it, you know? So I think that's when the creatives, Nick and Nadia, came up with this idea of what would it look like if the world treated periods normally. I think it changed everything, because they didn't approach it in a way that was just showing what was wrong. They actually showed the positive version of what the world should look like. And I think it informed a lot of the, I guess, the very activist optimism in the brand we've built since then. The name of Blood Normal was, you know, to assert powerfully, you know, what should be, you know, out in the open.
Normal was us showing how we imagined the world would be, you know, how it should be if there wouldn't be any taboos around periods. And what we've shown was not reality, but an imagined world that years later is becoming reality. And by having the first product demo that showed real blood, we've been really happy that so many of our competitors followed it. By now, I think there isn't many brands in the world who are daring to sell period care products and advertising them with blue liquids, because they are selling to humans, to women, plus, and not to Smurfs.
To me, that's all about breaking conventions, but not just to stand out. It's breaking conventions for good. After Blood Normal, there was Viva la Vulva. There's been periods. There is your new episode now, and you always found ways to continue to support women and break further taboos onto their own femininity. How come you always manage to reinvent and to bring, you know, the story further?
Well, I think before Margaux starts, we have a brilliant strategist who is on the call with us. And I think she's probably the most knowledgeable person on this planet about periods, the female body, and keeps on reading and sharing that knowledge. And then there is research techniques, and our innovation teams really try to stay very close to consumers.
On top of this iterative process of research, there's also an ongoing job of, you know, monitoring whatever, you know, it bears a relationship to periods or women's bodies, you know, closer or looser links. So there's almost like a constant repository in our minds and in our, you know, social media groups of things we think are interesting, that inspire us or that make us angry. We never start from scratch, because we always have a repository of inspiration, ideas, topics, events to build from. I mean, it's funny because you've got your Lego map behind you, but it is a bit like that, because we have all those pieces, different shapes and, you know, forms and colors, and whenever we have a brief, you know, there's just another way of building something, because there are, you know, countless numbers of taboos, unfortunately, around women's bodies. And even when you think you've done it, it's never completely done anyway. So there is no risk, unfortunately, of taboos running out. And so a bit like the Lego, like we always try and sort of find different angles to build from sort of similar, you know, the pieces that we've got, that we a sort of ever-growing collection of insight we have.
So how do you achieve that balance between refreshing your communication and at the same time making it so much enabled for your brand?
I mean, there's a bedrock of, as Tanja was saying, there's a bedrock of what we stand for and who we are. So, you know, a few years ago, when we were the first to talk about period taboos, like suddenly every single brand in the category, you know, sort of started mimicking the purpose, saying that we also want to break taboos, which is beautiful and great for women. But then obviously when you're in a boardroom with some stakeholders and they're like, how do I differentiate myself? You're like, well, to be honest, like, you shouldn't differentiate yourself just by, like, you can't own red blood. Like, it's not a
No.
thing. That's, that's what women, experience. So don't try and own it. What you can own is a style in the bravery to show the truth and the whole truth. So I think what distinguishes Libresse is we go for the full fat truth time and time again, but we always do it in a very beautiful, relatable way. So it's never there to shock people, but we are always going to push the envelope on the number of representations because we know that nobody else is going to go that far. So I think that's what defines the consistency between the campaigns, is that sort of the bravery and the craft in doing it in a way that's not going to alienate people. It's going to take people with you.
Margaux mentioned the craft, is that actually we always have that mix of real life and what we call expressive animation, and that was actually coming out of that we can't show everything, right? So we can't show the inside of a woman's body. We also, if we advertise an intimate wash, unless you want to advertise on Pornhub, you can't show, women naked washing their vulvas. So we had to overcome that, and that's where the agency came with, or is coming always with, different animations in combined with real images, so that enables us to tell our story without being completely censored.
One of the things you said is how you felt that this was true across the world. How did you learn about that? I'm curious to hear about how you netted on something that was so universal in the end.
I think it's been a very sort of ongoing process, to be honest, because there's been a lot of research and iterative, like there's been a number of waves of research and different types of research in different countries. There's been also a lot of cultural listening and cultural digging, and we've been following also what was taking the headlines in media. So, for example, there was the episode where Donald Trump was talking about a woman getting her periods, and it felt like it was something absolutely disgusting. And suddenly a lot of headlines came out of this. So we were following which countries were covering what, and it made us realize, quite universally, there is a sort of an awakening, a slow awakening to the fact that it is a thing that nobody dares to talk about.
I think these little blurbs in media and culture kind of made us wake up to, the context, because the thing with taboos is, if you're living in them, you often don't even realize it until somebody opens that up. So I mean, we've been all growing up in a world where advertising blue liquid for period care products was completely normal. So everyone thought it was normal until somebody asked the question, why is blood shown everywhere in red, but just for period care, for menstrual blood, it's censored. And I think we've then researched that insight in roughly 10 countries, from Sweden to South Africa, from Argentina to China. We even popped in Saudi Arabia to check, on a more conservative culture, and we saw that insight and that consumer truth was resonating across the world. And I think that was the base for our brand purpose and positioning. And then AMV kept on coming back with social listening and ideas. So anytime we briefed a new innovation campaign, they found a way of putting that into a relevant context and finding a taboo that was relevant to that particular product and service we wanted to advertise.
On a previous episode, Josie Paul from BBDO in India said that empathy is the return, creativity is the return gift of empathy. And I feel that understanding people the way you've been doing it, and staying close to women, their challenges, is something that has been key. Is there a personal element as well? Because I feel that beyond the understanding and the brands, there's passion as well with both of you on the cause and things that you want to change, right?
And the entire team is I mean, we laugh about the fact that we share and we overshare. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we talk, everything is personal and everything is political, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also something that's typical of what's happening to Women Plus. Is the personal is always political, because unfortunately patriarchy always has a say on your body. So
Yeah.
I think you can't not have passion and work on a brand and a topic like that.
It's something that also sets us apart, because we're so passionate about what we're trying to achieve, is that people who are in the team are equally passionate about it. And for womb stories, there's been members of my team who discovered that they have endometriosis when
Mm.
when they saw how the type of pain was depicted. One of the creatives was suffering from endometriosis, so she could really describe in a very different way beyond a period pain scale what it is like, and that helped others to go through that. And I think that makes the work very personal, but at the same time, it allows it to resonate with so many others because it's so authentic and it's so true.
And I think that's what shows in the different campaigns that you've done. There's something that makes you, or try to makes you feel as what women would endure, and you convey that so brilliantly, so intensely. And I wanted to come back to something you mentioned, which is fearless. So, so I remember the line that you had early on, "Live fearless," and the no blood should hold us back. I get the point that you had to be fearless as well as a brand, but how tough was it to get ACT, to get your stakeholders to buy into that?
Yeah, I think probably Blood Normal was the most difficult piece of work to get out into the world of
Hmm.
everything we've done, for several reasons. I think uh, there were lawyers who were telling us, you cannot do it because you're causing widespread public offense, right? And we had media authorities who saw the work and said, you cannot air this on my platform because it's not the right thing to do. And, inside Essity, while everyone signed the new brand positioning with blood and was like, yes, we're going to break taboos, and everyone was aligned on paper. I think when people saw the first execution, and the first execution was Blood Normal, people were really holding their breath,
Hmm.
and they thought, is this too much? Is this the right thing for my brand? We
Hmm.
had corporate communications asking the questions, how will our shareholders react? It might
Hmm.
work for your target group, but what would that mean? And if lawyers are saying we shouldn't do it, can we actually go ahead with it? And I I remember that was for me really a turning point in my career, because I thought, how can we sell period pads to women to encourage them to live confidently, and we are not confident in showing, how menstrual blood is.
And what dared you to be misfits and to be fearless?
So we had numerous conversations, and I think what has really made the change was that the consumer research we did across 10 different countries was that while not everyone within SCT was ready for that step, actually consumers were. So we
Okay.
had overwhelming resonance that this was the right thing for the brand. This was the right step forward. Women gave us that permission to go ahead because they felt understood and they felt seen. And I think once we put that on the table, um, we then got internally the permission to, okay, you guys try it out. And I think then the next step was to find a market who was willing to put advertising budget behind it. And when we started, we were a business of 400 million. In 2023, we cracked the 1 billion. We didn't know that back then, but there isn't a question in the organization anymore that this is the right thing to do. I think the feminine care category also shaped the global purpose of SCT.
What was the deciding factor in moving people at the end beyond the research?
Well, the secret is very simple: not giving up. Not accepting no for an answer. Once lawyers came back, we could have said okay, but I think because we saw that the consumer research was on our side, and because ultimately I believed it's the right thing to do. I mean, everything else is completely mad. So I
Yes.
think the secret of getting something out into the world once you have consumers back you up is you just keep going until you have the permission. So, and I think SHL, who is our account director at that time, she and her team were just fearless in getting these media bans and these censorships out. Changed the law in Argentina, and I think that wouldn't have been possible if we had accepted no the first time around. So we never accept no if we believe this is the right thing to do. And at one point, other people give in, but we don't.
What place do you see for understanding people, research, and how it can help and make a positive difference for you?
I think we have a few steps in our creative development journey. So one is the cultural listening that's going on at AMV and our innovation and comms team all year round, and that is driving the way. Then there is a thing that AMV started a while back, which is with projection technique. So we realized that if you want to get different answers, you need to ask different questions. So it's more about the methodology. And then once there is this next big idea around Viva la Vulva, womb stories are never just a period, we'll research quantitatively because taboos are very stubborn. So if you have a qualitative focus group and you get one person who is experiencing that taboo, she could direct the group in a completely different direction. So we always do quant research and have this 10% threshold. We're okay to offend 10% of the population, but we're not okay to offend more. And then we'll do our standard research of the finished film before it goes live. So I think those are the main stages.
Okay.
But we always check in with the consumer. Well, we listen to everyone from the C-suite to our collaborators to media owners. There is only one who takes the decision, which is the consumer, because you can't do great creative work by committee.
So, what would be the advice of someone who would like to follow your steps? Margaux, Tanja from 10 years ago. What would you tell them to do?
For me, it would be that you need to always dig deeper if you want to go further. And then it would be that empathy doesn't just have a place in your insight; it has a place at every step of your production. even when you're having a battle against someone, to get something out, instead of antagonism, you actually need to take them on your side. And then lastly, I would say it's not enough to have a good idea. You need to fight for it. Otherwise, it's the easiest part to have the idea, but to make it is the hard part.
What about you, Tanja?
First one, I would say find something that makes you really angry. So what's the one thing you want to change in the world? Because you don't opt in and out of your purpose if you're really committed to something. One, then second is you need to be willing to take risks. That can be scary and you can be nervous, but without risks, you will, do what everyone is doing. The work will be vanilla. Then third is enabling a culture of listening, in your team and in your agency team. And even though you listen to everyone and you take everyone seriously, the consumer is the queen. So she is the only one that is leading the way. And then the last one is, while it is scary to take risks, I can assure that courage is contagious. So we started as a small team with 2 at SCT and a few people at AMV, and by now we're a group of 400 marketeers working on the Libresse brand across the world, who are all fired up and who all believe that this is the right thing to do.
These are wonderful pieces of advices and great learnings. I will try to apply loads of them moving forward as well. It was great to listen to you. I wish you all the best in your next campaigns and next adventures. Thanks a lot, Tanja and Margaux.